Hello, Bears fans. Welcome back to another episode of Bears on Tap. I'm sure you're sick of my voice already, and you know me. I'm Ron Luce, joined by Q, and we have a very, very special guest with us tonight here on this Thursday night episode covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over at Bucs Gameday, Mr. J.C. Allen. J.C., thank you for joining us. Appreciate you hopping on with us here tonight. And J.C., tell us a little bit, tell our listeners so they're familiar with your work, kind of what you do over at Bucs Gameday.
Yeah, so I'm a writer, insider reporter for Bucs Gameday. It's powered by Sports Illustrated, so it's really cool. Just joined them actually prior to the season. I was with Pewter Report for 2 years. They're kind of like one of the local beats down there. They've been covering the team for a while. Before that, I was with Bucs Report. And before that, I was just a fan calling into radio. So got no background or anything like that. Literally just got my start calling into a podcast. They liked enough what I was bringing to the table. This is the year Brady was brought in that they added me as a fixture on the podcast. Then I got my own podcast, got credentialed through the Bucs, the NFL, and kind of worked my way to where I am now. So self-made at the age of 34. So it's been 33. So it's been a wild ride over the last 3 years, going to my fourth season here. But yeah, happy to be here to chop it up with you guys. Nice little matchup coming up this week between two former divisional rivals. Lots of history between the years. Not too much favor in the Bucs side, but we'll see if that can start to change here. Starting with this new team this year.
Absolutely.
So, if you said you were with the Pewter Report, were you with them the last time the Bears and Bucs played down in Tampa in the last rookie year?
Yeah, the last 2 seasons I was there with the infamous four, Tom Brady, and then with Fields rookie season, where he threw 3 interceptions.
That was the first year I started doing scouting reports and all the Bears opponents, and I very well might have used something you wrote to make my Bucs scouting report. Like as you said that just like clicked in my head. It's like I know Pewter Report had good stuff for me on like their scheme and what to expect in certain spots, and I know I read a lot of it.
Yeah, most likely.
I've also followed Pewter Report for quite a few years, so I'm very, very familiar and have definitely seen your name a couple times. And as for that, man, I mean, seriously, thank you for joining us because I feel like coming into the season, both of our teams almost were going in different directions than how Week 1 went, right? Like the at least, especially from the national media. Everybody was down on the Bucs. Nobody was picking them to win the division. Everybody's high on New Orleans and Atlanta. A couple people are high on the Panthers, which I don't entirely understand why, but that's neither here nor there. But nobody's been talking about the Bucs. And then they go in to Minnesota, take care of business, which, hey, we appreciate that. We weren't the only 0-1 NFC North team. Thank you for that. But the Bears were the exact opposite. A lot of hype coming into the season. Oh, the Bears are the team to watch. And they go out and they lay that egg that we all saw at 3:25 on Sunday in the Central Time Zone. JC, quick question, I think, for me to start here is just in the local area, especially in Tampa, was it the same narrative about this Bucs team coming into the year as it was on the national scale?
I think on the national scale, no. There's just the local scale. There's too much talent on this team to really kind of be in that Caleb Williams bottom 3 team in the league type deal. I think there's some cautious optimism regarding the teams being able to, really put out a winning record this season. But on the level that the national media was making out to be, not at all. I mean, you still got guys like Tristan Wirfs on this team, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, all on the offense and the defense, Vita Vea, Levante David, Devin White, Antoine Winfield Jr., Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean. I mean, the list goes on and on. So there's just too much talent, I feel like, and with Bulls defense that this team was just going to roll over and die. They weren't tanking. They weren't rebuilding. It was always a retool. You're dealing with, 42% of their cap space right now is tied up in players who will not suit up for the Buccaneers this year. So it was one of those that they had to go bargain bin basement hunting, and they grabbed a few really good pieces, I think. Ryan Neal, Greg Gaines gave them valuable minutes. Chase Edmonds is going to be a guy who's going to have some impact here as a third down back. And throughout the draft, I mean, Light kind of nailed on his draft picks, especially the early ones that he needed to, and uncovered some undrafted free agent gems. So It's one of these seasons where for Todd Bowles, it's difficult because, last year when he was handed the team, it was in March. He wouldn't really wasn't able to put his own stamp on it as far as free agency was over. The coaching staff was already in place this year. He changes out the coaching staff, which is going to make a huge difference. And we'll probably get into that a little bit later, but he's still handicapped with such a large cap hit from Brady retiring, the dead money from, trying to win those 3 years with Brady here. So it's been a difficult offseason for them, kind of just peacemaking a team. 13 rookies made the team, 6 undrafted free agents, which is crazy. You don't really see that, but a lot of these guys are going to have significant roles. A few of them are starters. So, I think in the long grand scheme of things, this team is going to be a lot better. It's going to surprise some people nationally, but locally, if they go 10-7, 9-8, I don't think people are going to be as surprised locally as people will be nationally.
Right. I mean, so I agree with you on that. Like as an outsider, I mean, every offseason I do a series for a podcast I do where we go through every team. We do talk like 30 minutes on the team, and I spend like hours every week just diving into as much data as I can find on them. And when we looked at the Bucs, I was like, this defense is too good for them to be bad. Like there's way too much talent here.
Yeah, I mean, they're still all pros, Pro Bowl caliber type players on the defense. And even with the offense that's going through, a change of system, change of scheme, changes on the O-line, changes at quarterback. A lot of youth on there. You look at like the third wide receiver is either a rookie or a second-year player. The tight ends are all second-year players. The running back is a second-year player and a rookie. The right side of the line is a second-year player, a rookie, a third-year player. Tristan Wirfs is fourth-year player, but it doesn't matter because it's outstanding. But it's a really young team, and that defense was going to be the thing, and we saw that on Sunday. That needs to kind of hold it together until the offense catches up to it. So I think there'll be more of that as the season goes. I think that bye week they have in week 5 sucks for any team, but for a team like the Buccaneers, it comes at a good spot almost, because you've got 4 games to look at and say, okay, this is what we wanted to do on offense. This is what we were good at on offense. What do we highlight? This is what our players are good at. And Dave Canales, our new offense coordinator, is really good at that. Being able to kind of diagnose what his team's good at, what's not, and he's going to be able to implement that over a 13-game stretch, which is quite a gruel down the rest of the season. But at least they'll have a handle on kind of what's working best for this team going forward. So it's one of those double-edged swords. But the defense certainly is still a very talented defense, and you saw with 3 turnovers last week. They let Justin Jefferson beat him up in that first half, but then came around and locked them down for 2 for 12 in the second half and kind of made them one-dimensional, and they couldn't get anything running going on the running game either. So they're going to carry him for a bit. It's just how good that defense is.
So with Dave Canales, like you mentioned him a few times in there, new offensive coordinator coming in from Seattle. I think I read today that he'd never called plays before this year, which was interesting to me. And he got to really pretty much overhaul the entire Tampa offensive staff for one reason or another. I think there was one position coach who stuck around. But my question here is, what should we expect from this offense? Like, I watched the game from last week, but that's only one game. I can't use it to base everything on. So being a guy who followed them all through camp, all through the offseason, what do you think we should expect from this offense?
Yeah, so I mean, they did pretty much completely overhaul that offensive side of the ball. They held on to tight ends coach John Van Dam and the offensive line coaches, but running backs coach is gone, wide receivers coach is gone, quarterbacks coach is gone. In there, they brought up other. Skip Pete is one of those guys they brought in from Dallas, who obviously worked last year. Yeah, with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. So as far as the offense, the thing about Canales is he's so positive, he's so upbeat. He knows when and how to like get guys to buy in, which is huge, obviously for a team, especially with a first-time play caller. They have all completely bought in this system, and after week 1, they completely bought in as well. One of the biggest things last season that frustrated Bucs fans, media, everything alike, was the lack of adjustments. They just refused to make adjustments and just continue to run their guys out there and say, just go beat your matchup and Tom will get you the ball. That doesn't work in today's NFL. And we saw that right before the half. They made some proper adjustments to what Brian Flores was doing, and they were able to go down and get a touchdown. After the half, they got the ball right away after deferring in the first. Chewed up 9 minutes of the clock, scored a touchdown, gave them that lead. So being able to make those adjustments, realize when something's not working, and going to something different. He talked about that today in his press conference. He was just, he's like, the first couple plays of the game, I'm like, who took my play? This is not my play sheet. Who took my play sheet? Just like, these aren't working. Give me something new. And it took a little bit to get adjusted to that. But once they did, they really started to kind of get rolling. One of the biggest things that they preach is protecting the football. They did a great job of that on the offensive side. For playing, you guys know how loud it is up in Minnesota. For a team that this is the real first extended look that this offensive line has had, with a rookie on there and a second-year player, two of them playing kind of out of different positions. Actually, everyone's playing a new position on that offensive line other than the center. 0 pre-snap penalties as well. So he's got his guys ready to go. They're dialed in, mentally focused. They know what to do. They know that out of this play, if we're getting this look, we can change into this look, and it's still the same formation, still the same personnel, but now we have a different way to beat you and counteract. So all those different things are definitely going to help this offense. And Dave Canales is at the core of it, being able to recognize when to go away from something, when to stick with something, when things aren't working out. And as a first-time play caller, that's huge.
Well, and Baker Mayfield's at the core of it too, right? I mean, you just said explains so much about. He was probably the most active quarterback at the line of scrimmage of any team on Sunday, which was surprising for a guy in a brand new offense. He was changing it felt like he was changing everything constantly.
Right. Yeah, because Flores, that Minnesota defense is a very young group. They've jettisoned a lot of their older guys and got rid of some people. Zadarius Smith, Eric Kendricks, who's been there for years, one of their best inside linebackers. He's gone, and they're relying on second-year players and Brian Asamoah, second-year cornerback, and Caleb Evans, and a lot of just young pieces. For him to get those guys in a situation where they loaded the box a lot, which limited the running game, and then they just pressure. So they had to pretty much throw their entire game script out the window from what they planned on doing to combat that pressure. And once they figured it out, and Flores still got the best of them sometimes, but once they figured it out, they were able to start moving the ball down the chains. And Baker's a big part of that, being able to, and this offense fits him so well. I could do a whole show on Baker Mayfield and how he's had 7 head coaches and 6 offensive coordinators before landing here. The only offense he really fit in was Kevin Stefanski's office. The year that he went 11-5 brought them to almost the AFC Championship game. If the defense could have wrapped up Chad Henne on that 4th and 13 scramble, Carolina thing was never going to work from the start. Bad system. It was more of a move by the owner to get a name in, then going out to LA after he was unceremoniously released. He turns around, has that great game, but now he's dealing with no Cooper Kupp, a banged up offensive line, a running game that's pretty much non-existent and inconsistent with Cam Akers, and Allen Robinson doesn't even he's like a ghost of himself at this point. Now he's back in a system. In 2021, that year, he was dealing with a torn labrum in his non-throwing shoulder, banged up elsewhere. OBJ quit, and his dad, the whole issue with that, where they released him and he went to the Rams. Now he's in a system where it fits him perfectly. He's got players on the outside, skill makers that he's never had before, and he's got a offensive coordinator that knows how to put him in situations for him to succeed and thrive. And I think we're going to see that. It's funny talking about Dave Canales because he is a first-time OC, first-time play caller, but he's seen so much in his 13 years with Seattle with Pete Carroll and Brian Schottenheimer and Darrell Bevel, and the coordinator, I forget his name, coordinator he had there last year who came from the Rams. It's like he's got so much experience to draw back on, and that was one knock last year. Byron Leftwich didn't have anything other than the Arian system to draw on. So he's got this wealth of knowledge that he uses, and very smart guy that, if he doesn't know the answer, he's not afraid to ask or find out the answer and then apply that answer and find the solution. So I think the duo the team Baker did now is really going to shock a lot of people. And as Bucks said, he was pretty much the reason why Swift had last year. That system obviously was a huge part of it, but he was instrumental winning player of the year, throwing 1,000 yards in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I was about to say as you were wrapping that right before you said it, one of the commenters here, Buccateers podcast, Canales was essential to the rebirth of Geno last year, and that was probably his biggest selling point, I think, from everything I've read about him. But did we lose you there, or you're frozen up on our end? So can you just give me like an okay if you're good?
He's moving a little bit.
Yeah, it's still frozen up on our end. So just JC, hop in whenever you're good, like whenever you think you're. Oh wait, there you go. We got you.
Good?
Now
okay.
You're good.
Okay.
I've got one.
Oh
no.
Speak too soon.
We got him and then we lost him again.
Yeah. All right, so maybe just jump in a minute here. Or there you go. You're blinking now. All right.
Can you hear me?
I think you're good. You're good now.
Can you hear me now? I got one of those like MeFi Wi-Fi boxes, and for some reason my computer likes to bump me off of my Wi-Fi and connect me to that thing, and obviously the signal's not as strong, okay. So I apologize.
Well, your video quality just improved a lot too, so that works. So I have another question for you. Then I'll let Ron go because I'm sure he has some questions too. But from that week 1 game, what were your main takeaways from it?
Funny you ask. I actually wrote an article about that, and I'll have that article come out every Monday. It's called The Extra Point at Bucs Gameday. So definitely check that out if you're interested. But my first takeaway was the run defense looked sharp. I mean, the run defense was really getting back to what they used to be like back, before last year, obviously. But Alexander Madison has been a successful running back when he's been, the one carrying the load. And the Buccaneers did a good job containing him. They did a heck of a job limiting anybody else as rushers. When you look at it, they really only let up 34 yards to him and another 7 to Cousins, so 41 total yards on the ground, and that makes the team one-dimensional. So that was one of the biggest things. They were living in the backfield. Devin White probably had his best game as a Buccaneer, just able to get to the line of scrimmage and wrap guys up, get behind the line of scrimmage, especially when, there were short passes. He was immediately there to stop them. So, I mean, he was all over the place. My other takeaway was that, the Buccaneers offense is a work in progress. It's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. Things are going to progress slowly. But when everything kind of clicks, it's going to be special, I think. I think there's a lot of things that they can do. I kind of touched on it. A lot of things they can do from certain looks that they're going to be able to duplicate and really kind of confuse defenses. They're going to expect one look, and then something's going to come completely off the other way, and it's going to allow them to keep teams honest. And the thing about this offensive system too is they get guys moving laterally, horizontally instead of vertically. So it tires the defense out. It allows the offensive line to take advantage of the athleticism and really kind of put the defense in a precarious situation as the game continues to go. So that's one thing that I think is going to be, it's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. And then my final take that I talked about was just the adjustments, which we talked about. The adjustments on the offensive and defensive side of the ball were so huge because it allowed you. I mean, if you watched the game, you saw what happened. The Bucs couldn't move the ball those first 5 drives at all. They had like 30 offensive yards almost going into the half before that scoring drive they went on. So, and then those adjustments allowed them to get 2 quick touchdowns back to back right before the half, right after the half. On the defensive side, you're getting killed by Jay Jetta. He was just, 7 receptions for 138 yards. Those adjustments to slow him down on the defensive side held him to 2 catches for 12 yards. Those are my biggest takeaways. I thought there was a lot of good play from a lot of players. Antoine Winfield Jr. Was all over the field. I talked about Devin White a little bit for a second there. I think another guy who was really impressive, obviously, was Baker Mayfield. No turnovers, led 2 scoring drives. Delivered a heck of a throw to Chris Godwin to let him finish the game in victory formation. So those are things that I'll build upon coming into this week home opener against the Bears.
100%. And JC, want to go back to a little bit of that discussion around the offense, because first off, a really big shout out to everybody joining us in the comments. A lot of people that follow you, JC, joining us tonight. We certainly welcome them. Some of our followers as well. Scott, a loyal follower of ours, saying Tristan Wirfs is the greatest Hawkeye tackle he's ever watched. Scott's out in Iowa. So he's really into it. And kind of going back to what Buccaneers podcast said here, with Canales being essential to the rebirth of Geno last year. I feel like as soon as any recent NFL fan hears Seattle and the Seahawks offense, they immediately think, well, they had Russ. They move on from Russ. Geno is resurrected to be the quarterback that everybody expected him to be coming out of West Virginia when he was initially drafted. To me, when I step back and I look at this team, I go, wow, there are a lot of real similarities to that Seahawks team, aren't there? Because you got a strong offensive line group in the front. You got really good weapons on the outside in Evans and Godwin. To me, and then you have some of those underrated guys at the tight end position, right? K-Dot and amongst others. To me, Rachaad White is the biggest, I think, national question mark of the Buccaneers offense, obviously outside of Baker Mayfield, not in the quarterback position. What have you seen from a guy like Rachaad White? And do you think he is the player that they need in Canales' system to truly make this work the way it has in Seattle for so many years?
Well, I think they'll be using a rotation. Rashad's definitely the top guy, but he does a lot of things just kind of smooth and natural. Like I said, they're loading the box quite a bit. So, they're still getting good push, but it's up to Rashad to be able to use his vision, patience, and find those holes and churn out those extra yardage. He didn't succeed at that. And he'll be the first one to tell you that. He actually said this on the Buccaneers Total Access radio show that they do. He's not happy with his game. He knows he left a lot of meat on the bone. And I think we'll see some improvement. It's tough too, because he only had 2 drives in the preseason. So with teams not playing in the preseason more and more, and with them doing some exotic things in the beginning that wasn't even allowing the run game get going, and then following that up by a stacked box and still having that extra defender you're not able to block, it stymied some of the things they wanted to do. But there was still some yardage there that he could have gotten that he left out there. So I know he's not happy about it. I think he's got the potential to do it. We saw it last year, especially in that game against the Seahawks, which Dave Canales was on the other side. And I think with more time, again, like I said, this offense is a work in progress. The more reps they get, the more opportunities they get. I think they've got a pretty good opportunity this weekend against your run defense. It's been improved a little bit by the T's back there, Tremaine and TJ. They did all right last week against the run. Now running backs out of the backfield, that's a different story.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
Andrew Billings is the name to watch against the run. Andrew Billings looked like a brick wall last week.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the only guy though. That's about all we got.
So I mean, I think there's opportunity there. They really like what they have with Sean Tucker, undrafted free agent. His probably would have been a day 2, if not early day 3 pick. If he didn't have the heart issue come up at the combine, fully healthy. He runs a 4.3 40, 4.3 and change. We don't really know because he had the heart thing, but he's the fastest guy in the room, and he can make some people miss. And all 3 of their top backs can all operate on all 3 downs. They're all incredible pass blockers. They can catch the ball out of the backfield. They can create for themselves. It's just, again, repetitions. I think it's going to be the biggest thing. especially, you look at a guy like Sean Tucker, who got reps in the preseason, but not necessarily with that top offensive line. So not being able to read their body language on how they block and how they open up holes. Rashad White, they got plenty of it in practice, but practice and game, we all know, is completely different. The speed is different, especially in the running game, because you're not trying to hurt your guys. So you're not going full speed, you're kind of half-ass blocking. So I think as they get more games and more games, I think they'll warm up, start heating up. And that's when you'll see Rashad White. I know people fantasy I thought he was a number one. He'll get there eventually. I think it's just going to take a couple of games for him to warm up. And then, they've got that Eagles defense, which I'm watching right now, is just tough in week 3 after the Bears. So that'll be a good challenge for them to see where they're at after this week.
Yeah, 100%. And with just quickly following up on that, because Tucker was a guy that I followed closely. We had our first ever in a fantasy league I was in. We're doing a dynasty league, and I was like,
nice.
I need to find a late round running back of value. And Tucker was the guy. It was right around the time that he had latched on with the Bucs as an undrafted free agent. And I was like, they don't got playoff Lenny anymore. Rashad White's the guy, but he's got a chance to be that number 2. Do you really think that it could get to a point that we've seen over the years, up in Seattle, right? When it was those split backfields with Chris Carson, and then now with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, do you think Tucker can be a high quality number 2 for this Buccaneers offense to actually have kind of that healthy 2-back duo that I think they probably want to do given Canellis' background?
Yeah, I do, and I think that's exactly, most teams want that, right? There's only so
Absolutely.
few look at the Falcons too. Algier out-touched Bijan Robinson, outran Bijan Robinson. Most teams want to have those 2 guys, and that's why the emphasis on paying a running back $15-16 million isn't there anymore, because you want to have those 2 guys. It's a long season. They take a lot of hits. Take a lot of carries. You want to have 2 guys that can tote the rock. If you have one guy that's incredible, obviously that's amazing, but you still want a good. Even last week, Tajay Spears out-touched Derrick Henry.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's just you look at it, and more teams, especially early in the season, want their guys to be rested up, want their guys to split those carries as long as it's effective, to kind of take that wear and tear, especially over a 17-game season. That's still, or 18 games. 18 week season that doesn't have an extra bye week worked into it yet, and the playoffs got even longer as well, with only one person having a bye. So it's one of those situations where I think Rashad's the guy, but Sean Tucker for sure will definitely get his fair share of opportunities. He got them last week. Again, different, the circumstances they're going up against, it was difficult for them to gain yardage on the ground, but he still showed some positive plays, and the ability that, hey, he might be able to be a solid contributor for the Bucs going forward. So they're definitely going to use all 3 of those guys. All 3 of them got touches. How they even them up, I still think it's probably going to be Rashad White with probably about 70 to 75. And then Sean Tucker will get that, 15 to 20, with Chase getting that 5%, maybe 10% in that 2-minute type situation, third down type of role. But they're all going to get their opportunities. Tucker had 5, you look at it, he had 5 rushes for 15 yards. Edmonds had 2 rushes for 8 yards. They even did an end around with Raheem Jarrett. So everyone's going to get their opportunity to touch the rock, but Rashad's the main guy here for now. And Sean works his way up into that lineup. He's definitely going to get the opportunities.
Okay. So speaking of the running game, I noticed, especially in the first half, I don't recall what the second half looked like personnel wise, but the first half, it seemed like they were really trying to force the issue with heavy personnel, 12, 13 personnel out there. Is that something you think continues? Do you think you work one of these young receivers, I think Trey Palmer, I believe, out of Nebraska, is that right? Or Devin Tompkins into the slot role? Or do you think that's going to be more double tight end type formations?
I think they'll utilize a little bit of both. I think the double tight end is something that they used a lot last year in Seattle. I just don't know if they have And again, Seattle's tight ends aren't great either. Noah Fant, Will Dissly, and I always forget the last guy's name because he's not that special. These guys aren't world beaters, but that room still put up 100 receptions, over 100 receptions between the three of them. I just don't see that same level of production. It's the youngest tight end room in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Cole Keith is more of that blocker tight end, and he even struggled with some blocking. K-Dot did not look good blocking at all. He's a good receiver, but he's got a lot of work. So, but then you're dealing with second-year wide receiver, first-year rookie wide receivers. Like, do you do that 3 wide receiver without the depth that you have? You only have 5 rostered every week. So it's one of those things where I'm not sure how it's going to play out. I think they'll still stick with that 12 personnel groupings. Maybe they cycle David Wells in for Keith more often because provides a little bit of an upside as a receiver. And if you watch that game, Keith, the first 2 passes went to him. They were both drops, and then he dropped a touchdown that most players would have made. It was a little high on Baker's half, but
that one was rough.
A little most athletic tight ends and wide receivers you got your hands on it, you got to bring it down. Yeah. But I think they'll still go heavy, but they'll work in that 11 personnel as well too. It's all going to dictate on matchup. We know that, right? Yeah. Every week is going to be different. As the game goes on, those adjustments that Bucs fans didn't see, those will be different, and they'll adjust to what's working, what's not working, what the defense is giving them. So I think the base package they'll come out with a lot of the time is probably going to be that 12 heavy personnel, though.
Okay, interesting. And I have one more question here on the defense. And it's the first one I've asked about the defense, shockingly, because that's the one that scares me way more than not that I don't respect the Bucs offense, but like their defense is on a whole nother level. Yeah. How has this defense attacked mobile quarterbacks, and how have they fared against mobile quarterbacks?
Up and down. It's different though this year because of the personnel is different. They've got a lot younger. They got a lot faster. Guys like Yaya Diaby who run a 4.5 40 and is just an animal.
He's my favorite guy at the Senior Bowl.
He's really good. Joe Tryon-Sharenka, he's in that full-time starting role. He's fast, athletic. If Kalijah Cansey can go, he hasn't practiced the last 2 days, but he did the same thing. If he does, I think he'll be on a snap count. But his speed jumps out the page. I mean, you watched that game last week. He buried Kirk Cousins on one play, was nearly close to getting a sack on another play. That speed from there. The linebackers, we know, Devin White, sideline to sideline. So there's tons of speed out there to be able to track down and kind of contain Fields, but that's going to be the biggest thing. Herbert killed them last time they played too. He had over 100 rushing yards, 5 catches for 33 yards. He was just all over the place in 2021. So they'll have to worry about him as well. But the biggest thing, right? You contain Justin Fields, make him a pocket passer, and things are probably going to go in your favor that game. And that's why I think they're hoping Cansey can play, because he can push that pocket and funnel Fields to the outside, where hopefully they've got those outside linebackers there that have speed and athleticism and can kind of bring him down, contain him, push him back inside to the big boys trying to get the sack or grab the sack themselves. One thing that works in the Bears' favor on offense, but also kind of in the sense of it couldn't have come at a better time with Justin Fields as a starter, is Carlton Davis is likely not going to play in this game. He's got turf toe. I reported that earlier. He's got turf toe. He's probably going to miss this game. If he does, we'll see tomorrow if he practices. And if he does, that means he's going to tough this game out. I think they'd rather be inclined to let him sit this game and make sure he's good for the Eagles on Monday Night Football. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see. He's also a big prize money cornerback that has gone up against DJ Moore quite a bit, and I think there's some there's always
bad
that
blood.
Not bad blood, but always when you're going up against someone you know their tendencies, and he's done a pretty good job at holding them in check. So, but at the same time, I think Zion McCollum will probably take that starting spot, and he's got 4.3 speed, and if he gets on the outside, he's a guy, his tackling has some question marks. And I think Bucs fans are kind of concerned about that. But he's a guy that's got the speed that can, catch and chase Fields if he gets out of the pocket and able to contain him. But it's going to be a difficult situation. Some of the best teams in the league try to stop him, and they can't. Once he gets going, and he's difficult to bring down. He knows what he can do as a runner, and he'll rely on that to his detriment of his passing as progression as a passer. But when he gets the tuck step ball and runs, you got to be aware. You got to be able to make the tackle, or else he's going to turn that to a big gain and potentially take it to the house.
Yeah, 100%. In one, that was kind of got me thinking on the defensive side here, JC, because as Bears fans, right, we all had the expectation in terms of, you mentioned Khalil Herbert, and last year really kind of came onto the scene. David Montgomery had owned that backfield for the years prior. Now, obviously, Montgomery's in Detroit. Everybody's, it's Khalil's backfield. Well, every time Herbert was in the game against Green Bay, it was just non-existent. Nothing was there. And then they put in Roschon Johnson, which
I love Roschon Johnson.
Yeah, I think a lot of Bears fans love Roschon too. And I think everybody appreciated him a lot more after Sunday's game because he is just that physical. He'll run you over. Dare I say, shades of Mr. Mike Alstott, just puts down the shoulder, doesn't care about his body. Kind of the same question.
Too.
Deceptive speed, indeed. So kind of along the same lines of Q's question, but maybe in a different facet here is with probably, if I'm a betting man, we probably see more Roschon than anybody else out of the backfield just because of the impact he had when he was on the field for the Bears in week 1.
And his ability as a pass protector against Todd Bowles blitzes.
Yes. Much better blocker than Herbert is for sure. How do you think the Bucs, because Bucs run defense had a really good week 1. How do you think they're going to prepare for such a physical running back coming out of the backfield? Because it feels like in today's NFL, there's not as many guys that are as physical as Roschon Johnson as there was 10, 12 years ago in the NFL.
Vita Vea. He is an absolute load. He's going to I think if they try to run up the gut, they're going to have some difficulties. They've got a good D-line rotation too. Greg Gaines is another guy there. Mike Green is someone who they're really high on. They have Will Golston that they brought back. Logan Hall had some really good plays, bulked up to 300 pounds. He's the guy who can work as a pass rusher as well, and really kind of use that. He had dropped Madison for a 3-yard loss. And Devin White, Levante David. I think this Bucs team, they've got the pieces to be a really good run defense, no matter who's in the game. I mean, whether you're putting out CMC there with the 49ers in week 12 or week 11 that they have, or no, I think it's week 13, whatever, one of those weeks. They got CMC coming up. They got Bijan Robinson coming up. If you're going to try to run it up the gut, I think it's going to be a long day for running backs. On the outside, Shaq Barrett's one of the best run stoppers as an edge rusher in the league. He does an amazing job containing. I think Anthony Nelson is another guy who's really good at run stuffing. Devin White's got that sideline to sideline speed, and it looks like he's finally got the mental aspects down. Not that he didn't, but the instincts, the read and react, the ability to see what's coming on the play and get there. And before they can make that next step, the next move, we saw him drop a lot of guys at or behind the line of scrimmage last week. So with that, and obviously Levante David's instincts are incredible. All these guys are in the secondary willing to get their hands dirty and run support. Antoine Winfield Jr., he can one of the best in the box, 10 sacks already in just 4 seasons with the Buccaneers. He can get into the backfield in a hurry, drop some guys. Ryan Neal's another guy. I think both of their cornerbacks, when healthy. I mean, Jamel Dean is tremendous in run support as well and tackling. So they've got a handful of guys there. I think this run defense is Brown's so good. I think this run defense is just going to be really difficult for teams to kind of get a grasp on how to beat, and it's going to make them one-dimensional. In a week like this, it works in the Bucs' favor, where Justin Fields still hasn't taken that step as a quarterback, as a passer. And that's what a lot of Bears fans and front office and personnel are waiting for, right? This is a game that's going to test him. You're not going to be able to take off scrambling and running like you can in typically other matchups. likely against this Bucs team, you're going to have to sit back there. You're going to have to make those throws with anticipation, go through your reads, because if not, the Bears are going to end up with an early pick. And the Carolina Panthers are still a young team, and they're way away. They're going to end up with an early pick, and they could end up with 2 top 10 picks in this draft coming up next year. And Fields might be finding somewhere else to play.
Yeah, and we'll cross that road when we get there.
I know you're ready. But I'm just saying.
We end up in that discussion a lot, actually, and that's the main reason I'm kind of segueing it, because it's like I don't want people listening to be like, we've heard this. Like,
yeah, I know. It's just from an outside perspective. That's what I see.
Oh, sure.
Too,
and we appreciate
100%.
Like he's got to prove that he can be more than a runner. He's got to prove that he can hang back there, make those throws. They got him some weapons now, right? And this is going to be one of those games I think that will test him in that aspect.
Yeah, I've been saying since Sunday night, this is a giant test for him. This is a giant spot for him. He needs to show that he can attack downfield against blitz fronts, against these heavy disguise zone coverages that he's going to get thrown at with mugged up line. Like, it's going to be a lot, and he needs to perform with it. Like, this week it's not ideal for him, but after coming off the week last week, he needs to show something for a lot of the fans' faith.
Vita Vea dropped back in coverage last week, just to give you an idea of how crazy Todd Bowles is with his looks and his schemes. So it's difficult for quarterbacks to get a beat on it. That's for sure.
Now, as you were talking, one question that I wrote in my game preview today, that one of the kind of unknowns in this defense, I think, is the nickel corner. I think it's Idzik. Something along those lines. Izzian. How's his run defense? And how is he? Because he's like 5'8", I want to say I read, and
5'8", 5'9", somewhere around there.
Yeah. So how does he hold up against the run, or is it kind of more of a linebackers fill? Shaq Barrett covers for him, and
he's a scrappy dude, man.
Yeah,
he's a scrappy dude. Like everyone talks about that play he made before the half of the interception, right, where he just kind of grabbed the ball, took it away from KJ Osborne. People forget because of that play is that he took down Jordan Addison on a 3rd and 9 play where, if Addison is able to just extend, he's getting that first down, and that's keeping the ball moving for the Vikings. And we're talking about a different game. The other play people like this is that Madison's touchdown that he scored on him, but Madison made a great move, showed great effort not to go down, and the form was perfect there from Christian Izzian. I think they've got a stud in this guy, man. Nickel cornerback is one of the hardest positions to play in the 100%. League, because you're asked to do so much run support. You're asked, you're switching a lot too. And oftentimes they'll put some of their best run blockers on there. Like KJ Osborne is a heck of a run blocker. He was able to get off run blocks and wasn't a liability that way. He's dealing with concussion right now, probably from that cheap shot that, Jefferson gave him. Towards the end of the game, but I think that if he can go, he's going to be all right. It's one of those things where concussions are no joke. He didn't practice yesterday. Today he was limited. We'll see tomorrow. We'll get an update from Todd Bowles whether he's playing or not. If he doesn't, it'd be D. Delaney who'd be the next man up. And he's like your classic everyman, can kind of do everything but nothing great. He's not Ryan Gosling and Remember the Titans bad, but he's not great either,
Great reference.
That is an incredible reference, because I've been watching clips. I'm like ready to watch that movie after seeing so many of them on the internet nowadays. That's an incredible reference. And that is something too that I also am thinking about, is the nickel corner position, because for the Bears on the flip side, Kyler Gordon just went on the IR today.
Saw that.
4 weeks gone. I don't even know if they actually announced why. They just said he went on the IR, but it looks like a broken hand. Yeah.
I don't even know who you guys have jumping in there.
Exactly.
Josh Blackwell, I believe.
Josh
He played some last year.
Blackwell
he
did not
some
practice
flashes,
today.
But
Blackwell didn't practice today either. I don't think
Blackwell didn't practice today. He's hurt. He was limited yesterday, did not practice today. So they
called up somebody.
Yeah, they brought up Greg Stroman Jr. Spent some time.
Oh, that's right. That's who it is. It's Stroman. Yeah. Stroman's expected. To fill in.
He'll probably play the slot.
Also, the Bears have a lot of random UDFA guys who played last year and showed some flashes because I mean they showed plenty of moments too, but like if you're UDFA, you might show some flashes here and there, and they did.
Yeah, they had a lot of guys step up.
One of the things I think that they can take advantage of is taking advantage of Eddie Jackson, taking advantage of some of the, because you look at Eddie Jackson, he's been all pro. Obviously, he's great. He's one of those guys that if he's not playing deep, he can get himself into trouble. He's missed like 67 career tackles, and the Bucs have some guys that can create, after the catch. So if they're doing these quick passes and Eddie's got to keep sneaking up to the line instead of playing deep, I think they can take advantage of them that way. Even the linebackers. I mean, Tremaine Edwards turned it around recently, but they still have missed a ton of tackles in their careers. For linebackers who are both kind of more that downhill. Neither one of these guys are coverage backers. They're more of those downhill physical forces. Obviously, they're not coverage backers. You guys watched the game against the Packers last week. Sorry, I don't mean to throw salt in the wind like that. But
no,
I think that's one of those things. Yannick Ngakoue too, like, he's not a guy who can set the edge, really. He's more of a straight pass rusher. You can't drop him back into coverage. So I think that's one area for this Bears team, right? Nickel cornerback could be a guy who's got 2 career games under his belt, that they can take advantage of this defense is those quick passes, kind of get these guys off balance and and having to tackle guys in space. If they try to throw the ball deep, Jalen Johnson can match up with most number ones. He's a really underrated quarterback. He's not going to do anything. He's not going to get you any interceptions, barely going to knock any balls away, but he's going to clamp you down. He's going to play tight coverage. And that's something that is still valuable in the NFL. He's going to make you go another direction. I think he got targeted 4 times, 1 catch for like 13 yards, and 6 of it was yak. So, I mean, like, he can clamp them down. Again, it was Romeo Doubs he was on most of the game, not a world beater, not Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. But if you're trying to go take these deep shots down on the field and these deep crosses on them, Eddie Jackson, Jalen Johnson can get you by and can make you make mistakes, right? And I love Jaquan Brisker too. I think he's a great player as well. I think he's probably one of the best players. He's probably the best young player on your team, in my opinion. With the most upside. I loved him coming out of college. I liked what I saw last year. Obviously, there's rookie growing pains, but I'd like to get your thoughts on him too. But I think there's certainly ways to take advantage of this Bears defense, and I think that's going to be the quick, short game rather than going for those haymakers, those deep shots down the field. Because I think you guys have the personnel to combat that.
Yeah, and I'm intrigued too. Just real quick here, Q. I'm really intrigued to watch the Bears corners against Evans and Godwin this week, because obviously the Bears play very Tampa 2 inspired system. So Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson, the rookie over on the other side, press at the line, jam guys.
They didn't last week, but
they didn't last week, but that's what they should be doing. So that's why I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen this week, because to your point, JC, this is not Romeo Doubs and Jalen Reed. Like, Christian Watson didn't even play last week. That's the crazy thing that a lot of people might forget, is that their technical number 1 wasn't even on the field, and you couldn't even tell. This is Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who are very easily 2 of the best receivers in the league, who I think are just, unfortunately, don't get talked about because they play in the NFC South, and that's just the nature of that division, unfortunately, in the national landscape. I think it's a load of horse crap. I love following the NFC South personally, but
Levante David, case in point.
Levante David is such a stud that gets severely disrespected in the NFL. I will die on that hill as a Bears fan. It does not matter. I've begged for him to be in a Bears uniform my entire life. So, but like, that to me is the biggest matchup I'm watching. Agreement with you, because Evans and Godwin are not small guys. Like, they're not guys that are just going to easily get pressed at the line and be taken off their route. I'm waiting for Evans to try, and especially if he gets Stevenson, who he's a rookie. He's shown he's very aggressive. I'm waiting for Evans. If he gets matched up one-on-one with Evans, I'm waiting for Evans to dip into that veteran savvy and just potentially embarrass him. And that personally just scares the hell out of me.
Yeah. So the predicate of this offense is Coach Canales describes it as a heavyweight fight, right? You're not going for a haymaker or the knockout punch every time. You're going to hit him with body blows, wear him down. And then when they don't expect it, that's when you come with a haymaker. That's where you come with the uppercut. That's where you knock them down. And that's much of what this Bucs offense is going to be throughout the season. It's going to be quick throw, run, quick throw, boom, deep hit, boom, Evans, touchdown, 40 yards down the field. That's what this offense is going to be. Teams will catch on and figure it out and find ways to, kind of combat it and stuff like that. But at the same time, one of the things that helps them the most is because so much of what they're doing comes out of the same formations and stuff like that, and they can run any play not any play, but most plays they can run out of any personnel grouping on the field that they have out there, even if it's 12 personnel, which is obviously 2 tight ends if listeners don't know, or 13 personnel, 3 tight ends, or 11 personnel, right? Any grouping they have on the field, they have ways that they can, especially with the versatility of these running backs being able to be good receivers, they can line them out in the slot and they can hit you in any different way. So it keeps teams off balance. And I think that's what we'll see probably this week. Like I said, they'll hit them with those short, quick throws, challenge those linebackers, challenge, put Ngakwe in coverage, see what, trying to get him to have to chase a running back in the flat, right? Yeah. Get those matchups, get Jackson to sneak down to the line where, he's been prone to miss tackles. I think he missed the least amount of tackles last year in his career, but every other year you've seen it's been double-digit missed tackles. It's been a theme for him, which is not good, right?
Dan Hampton just called him a clown on WGN radio yesterday because of how he's playing. So for what that's worth,
I think Dan's looking at the wrong stuff personally, but I don't know. I'm not a Hall of Famer.
But no, I just think that, like, if you do that, right, you're hitting them with those quick passes where I think you can take advantage, and then all of a sudden you switch it up and you send Mike deep against Tyreek Stevenson, who's a rookie, who's still kind of, as you said, being a little aggressive, trying to make a name for himself, trying to he's going up against the best receiver he's ever faced in his entire life right now, and Mike Evans. And Mike says that, like you said, he's that savvy guy who can put a move on him, and then boom, you're looking at a Mike Evans, 40-yard completion down the field. They're in the red zone, and next 2 plays later, they're scoring a touchdown or kicking the field goal to put put them ahead, increase their lead, or get points on the board or anything. So I think that's the situation where the Bucs. And I don't think this is going to be a blowout in any means. I think it'll be, probably maybe like a 10-point game, maybe 13 points. I don't think it's going to be like a 40-0 or a 35. I think the Bucs offense is still figuring it out. I think the defense should have a good ability to shut the offense down for the Bears. But I don't think the Bucs are going to just blow the Bears out of the water. I think it's just the offense is still too new and there's still too many kinks to work out.
Ugh, you're being generous. You're being generous, JC. We don't have as much faith as you. Just naturally, we're pessimists as Bears fans. Q, you got another question?
I only got one more question for you. Is Jason Light Jameis 1 of 1?
He's not. He's not.
Okay. I've been waiting for verification on this. I've been wondering for years.
He's not. I think it's multiple people. Yeah. My wife is really good at finding people who don't want to be found. And I'm pretty sure it's what she does for a job. I won't get too much into it, but I'm pretty sure we found out who it was, the multiple people. One's a female, the other's a male that are running that account. At the end of the day, I don't pay attention to him anyway. It's just crazy. He's with the Saints now, so yeah, I don't have to deal with him. I don't see him on the Bucs newsfeed as much anymore. So, some people just don't understand logic and reason, and he's one of them. He's gonna die on the Jameis Winston hill, and it is what it is. It's a weirdo.
Hey, he is a published author, sir.
Published author. Yes.
He's using the term author very loosely.
Yeah. Very loosely. Oh, anyone can be an author. I mean, you just have to go. What was that? Did you see the TikTok of that guy that was in a supermarket? He wrote a book, and then someone, who's got a bunch of followers on TikTok posted him on there. And then the guy ends up being a bestseller on New York Times because he went viral on TikTok over some that was crazy. Yeah. It's just write a book and get on TikTok and you'll be famous, I guess. I don't know.
It's that easy, folks. It's that easy.
that
keep that
easy. We grew up in the wrong time, guys. I mean, some of the stuff I'm sure what we did when we were younger, if we record that and put that on the internet, I'm sure all of us would be living in lavish lifestyles right now in mansions with 1 million followers on TikTok. Too bad we just missed the boat, right? So that dial-up internet. We had ASL.
Yeah, right. AOL Messenger and MySpace was the definition of my youth. But
I was a coder back then, man. I can't remember any of that coding stuff now. And it would probably help me like big time.
Yeah, right.
Coding before we even knew it was something that was going to be useful in our lives. just
doing it for fun. Profile? Yeah.
Right.
Just doing it for fun. Totally feel that. Well, JC, we appreciate you so much for jumping on and joining us. This was an absolute blast. Obviously, huge matchup coming up for you guys. I mean, I think the Buccaneers, starting 2-0 would certainly kind of, at least I would hope, put the league on notice a little bit that, like you said, this Buck team is too talented to be in the Caleb Williams discussion come year end. And hopefully, hopefully we're not in the Caleb Williams discussion as Bears fans, but we'll find out. It's early, but there's a lot of football to be played. So,
yeah, I think the Bucs win this game. I don't have a score prediction ready for you guys yet, but I think they win this game. But that joy is so short-lived with the Philadelphia Eagles coming off a mini bye and just dismantling the Vikings right now. They come over on Monday Night Football, so they're coming off a mini bye after playing on Thursday. Plus, they get that extra day because they're not playing on Monday Night Football. And then the Bucs go to the Saints in the Superdome, which is a very difficult place to play, a place where they have not had success a lot. They get the bye week, and then they get the Lions, who are looking really strong right now. I think the Bucs win this one. Again, I don't have a score prediction, but then it's a 3-game losing streak for them, so it's not something that they have to hold on too tightly as Bucs fans of the team. And then they start to kind of right the ship and go. I put out my predictions, and they kind of go bounce back and forth, lost, win, because they got the Falcons after the Lions, and then they go up to Buffalo on a short week for Thursday Night Football. They get so screwed. The Thursday night game is 2 weeks after their bye, so it's like they get their bye, and then they get their mini bye like a week and a half later. It's like it's like such a bad position that the league put them in this year. But what can you do?
Yeah, that's brutal. And I know the Bears got to deal with that early in the year too. It's this game in Tampa, and then next week they're off to Kansas City to get absolutely trounced in Arrowhead. And then they come home for the Broncos, which maybe that's a win because I don't know what the Broncos are and are doing, but and then they have the short week Thursday Night Football in the nation's capital. They got the Commanders on October 5th. And if it's anything like the Thursday Night Football between these same two teams a year ago, we might all be scratching our eyeballs out because it's going to be really painful to watch. So, absolutely.
So what else is on tonight?
Yeah. Oh, it's Thursday. I wonder if any reruns of NCIS Los Angeles are on.
Yellowstone, I think, is back.
Yeah, it's gonna be something like that. But JC, thank you so much, man, for joining us. We really, really appreciate you. Encouraging all of our even Bears listeners to follow you. I'm very excited to kind of follow along now with the Bucs the rest of the season via you at JC Allen LFL on the old X/Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it nowadays. It's like we call it in Chicago. It's still the Sears Tower, not the Willis Tower. I'm going to call it Twitter until somebody tells me I can't. So
it's not the Sears Tower anymore.
No, it hasn't been.
That's always the Sears Tower for me too. I'm not even from Chicago, but that's the Sears Tower. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't care if Sears goes out of business. That's a Sears Tower still. No, and I appreciate it, guys, because I tell everybody, like, I am a football fan first and foremost.
Absolutely.
Patriots fell off. If Tampa wasn't here for me to cover, I would still love this game of football. And I would find a new team, or I'll just follow the league. So if you're one of those junkies that just can't get enough football and you want to know what's going on throughout the league all over at any time, and just kind of you just want to keep tabs on all the teams, like I would love it. I love when people follow me for that reason. So if you're one of those people, definitely follow me. I'm your one-stop shop for anything Bucs down here. Giving you my Twitter is probably like one of the most comprehensive things. I got anything the Bucs are sharing, any analytics, any video tape breakdowns, plus all of our amazing content at Bucs Gameday with Sports Illustrated. So definitely give me a follow. And I appreciate you guys having me on here. It's been awesome to chop it up with you guys. We had a couple, we talked Bears on tap with some brews on tap, which was nice. And I'm down to come on, anytime, if this, probably not this season, but if they end up playing each other next year or whatnot, I'm always down to be a guest or off-season guest, whatever you guys want. It's been a pleasure to hop on here and chop it up with y'all.
Absolutely, JC. Absolutely. We appreciate you. And just quick reminder for all of our Bears listeners, you know where to follow us at Bears on Tap. Follow all of our other great Chicago sports coverage here at the On Tap Sports Network, ontapsportsnet.com, at ontapsportsnet on the socials. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button on YouTube as well. The On Tap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. JC, thank you for joining us. Q, as always, buddy, it's a pleasure to jump on the microphone with you. Big game coming up on Sunday, and looking forward to potentially being in your DMs during the game there, JC, about what's going on and some instant reaction in case you need anything to share to the Bucs faithful in case they want to know how upset Bears fans are when they inevitably lose. So, no, appreciate it, JC. You're the man, and we'll be in touch. But thank you so much, JC. We appreciate you, and as always, this is Bears on Tap. Bear down, and gotta please. I hope the Bears make it interesting on Sunday. Just a little. Have a good night, everybody.